Some faces were once icons, actors, artists, public figures, praised under the spotlight and adored by millions. But behind the fame were choices, secrets, and consequences that couldn't stay hidden forever. In this video, we take a closer look at the downfall of names like Michael Jace, Danny Masterson, Josh Duggar and Diddy, once beloved, now remembered for scandal, courtrooms, or time behind bars. This is Then and Now, where we don't just revisit the past, we ask the harder question: when the spotlight fades, what's left behind? Sean Combs, from hip-hop mogul to a legacy under fire. Sean Diddy Combs was once the embodiment of black excellence and entrepreneurial power. From launching Bad Boy Records to becoming a billionaire through spirits, fashion, and media, he was admired not just for his success, but for how completely he seemed to control it. To millions, he was proof that you could build an empire from nothing. But by late 2023, that empire began to crumble, not from scandal, but from testimony. Cassie Ventura, his longtime girlfriend, filed a lawsuit accusing him of over a decade of abuse, physical violence, sexual coercion, career sabotage, and manipulation. Though the case was settled within 24 hours, it opened the floodgates. Other women came forward, former staff, models, even strangers, accusing Diddy of similar patterns of abuse spanning years, often facilitated by close associates. In March 2024, federal agents raided Diddy's homes in Los Angeles and Miami. The ongoing investigation, reportedly involving human trafficking and sexual exploitation, has placed him under national scrutiny. While no criminal charges have been filed as of yet, the silence surrounding his empire has finally broken. Diddy's fall is not just about one man, it's about a system built on unchecked power. For years, wealth and influence insulated him. Now those same shadows he once controlled are being lit from within. And when survivors speak in unison, no legacy, no matter how polished, can stay untouched. Harvey Weinstein. When the man who made legends became the face of abuse and power. For decades, Harvey Weinstein was a titan in Hollywood. As the co-founder of Miramax and the Weinstein Company, he helped shape films like Shakespeare in Love, Pulp Fiction, and The King's Speech. He was the ultimate gatekeeper, able to make or break careers with a single decision. To many, he was the architect behind modern cinematic greatness. But in 2017, the truth came crashing through. Dozens of women, including high-profile actresses, accused Weinstein of harassment, coercion, and sexual assault, allegations that spanned decades. His power wasn't just creative, it was systemic. Victims were silenced through fear, contracts, and the threat of career ruin. The fallout was seismic. In 2020, Weinstein was convicted in New York on charges of rape and sexual assault and sentenced to 23 years in prison. In 2023, a California court handed him an additional 16-year sentence. Though some verdicts have faced appeals, Weinstein remains incarcerated in New York State. Harvey Weinstein's downfall marked more than the end of one man's legacy. It sparked a reckoning, a reminder that unchecked power breeds silence, and silence enables harm. But when survivors speak, together, the silence breaks. And justice, however late, begins to answer. Wesley Snipes, from iconic Blade to a costly misstep behind the spotlight. Wesley Snipes was once one of Hollywood's brightest stars. In the 1990s and early 2000s, he led a wave of iconic action films, from Passenger 57 to Demolition Man, and later became a cultural legend as Blade, the vampire hunter who brought dark superhero films into the mainstream. Snipes represented power, intelligence, and black excellence in a genre that rarely offered space for it. But behind the scenes, he faced a very different battle, one rooted not in violence but in financial misjudgment. In 2008, Snipes was convicted on 3 misdemeanor counts of willfully failing to file federal tax returns between 1999 and 2004, despite earning millions annually. He had reportedly aligned himself with a group that falsely claimed U.S. citizens had no legal obligation to pay federal income tax. That belief cost him dearly. Snipes was sentenced to 3 years in prison and began serving time in late 2010. After his release in 2013, he quietly re-entered the film world, wiser, more grounded, and publicly more reserved. Wesley Snipes reminds us that not all downfalls stem from scandal or malice. Sometimes it's a single misguided belief, fueled by pride or misdirection, that rewrites a legacy. And for a man who once wielded silver blades on screen, his sharpest lesson came not from battle, but from the weight of responsibility. Danny Masterson, from sitcom star to a sentence that no fame could shield. Danny Masterson was once a familiar face on millions of screens. As Stephen Hyde in That 70s Show, he captured the essence of cool rebellion, sarcastic, self-assured, and unforgettable. For years, he was more than a character. He was a cultural touchstone, admired by a generation who grew up laughing with him. But behind the charm was a truth that would not stay hidden. In the early 2000s, 3 women, each connected to Masterson, accused him of raping them under conditions involving manipulation and intoxication. All were members of the Church of Scientology, which Masterson also belonged to. They claimed the church pressured them to remain silent, fearing the scandal would damage the church's public image. After years of delays, Masterson was convicted in 2023 on 2 counts of rape. He was sentenced to 30 years to life in prison. The case reignited debate about how powerful institutions can suppress justice and how long victims are forced to wait before they are heard. Masterson didn't just lose his career, he lost the trust of an audience that once saw him as untouchable. His fall wasn't fast or dramatic. It was slow, buried, and shielded until it wasn't. And when the silence broke, it broke everything around it. Shah, The Price of Glamour, When Trust is Traded for Illusion. Shah rose to reality TV stardom as a standout cast member of The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. With her bold presence, luxury lifestyle, and unapologetic energy, she became a defining face of the show. To viewers, she represented a life of success, power, and the fearless charm that made for addictive television. But beneath the glitz, another reality was unfolding. In 2021, Jen was arrested and charged with participating in a long-running telemarketing scheme. Authorities revealed that she and others targeted elderly individuals, offering promises of business coaching and online success, only to extract large sums of money under false pretenses. It wasn't just fraud, it was deception packaged as opportunity. At first, Jen denied all charges, but as evidence mounted, she changed her plea to guilty. In January 2023, she was sentenced to 6.5 years in federal prison. Jen's story isn't just about fame lost, it's about what happens when image becomes more important than integrity. In chasing status, she crossed a line that couldn't be undone, and while audiences may forget headlines, they never forget betrayal. Michael Jace, from trusted TV cop to a life sentence behind real bars. Michael Jace was once known for playing heroes on screen. He gained fame for his role as Officer Julian Lowe in The Shield, portraying a conflicted but honorable cop. Viewers trusted his face. He also appeared in Forrest Gump, Boogie Nights, and Planet of the Apes. His career seemed steady and respected. But behind the camera, his life told a different story. On May 19, 2014, in South Los Angeles, Michael was arrested after a tragic incident at his home. His wife, April Jace, was found unresponsive. He later admitted to causing her death. It shocked fans and those who worked with him. The legal process was long and emotional. In 2016, he was found guilty of second-degree murder and sentenced to 40 years to life. He is currently serving time in a California state prison. Michael Jace's story is a heartbreaking example of how fame and family can collide in devastating ways. Once a familiar face on screen, now remembered for something far more tragic, a reminder that real life doesn't always reflect the roles we play. Allison Mack, from teen idol to key figure in a sex cult. Allison Mack was once a household name, a bright, beloved actress who spent a decade playing Chloe Sullivan on Smallville. Intelligent, loyal, and courageous, her on-screen persona made her a role model for young viewers. Few could have imagined the role she would later play in one of the most disturbing cases in Hollywood history. In 2018, Mack was arrested for her involvement in NXIVM, a so-called self-help organization that secretly operated as a sex cult. She became a high-ranking member of DOS, an inner circle where women were manipulated, blackmailed, and coerced into sexual submission. Her role wasn't passive, she was an active recruiter, groomer, and enforcer. Allison helped select victims, collect compromising collateral for blackmail, and oversee abusive rituals, including branding women with the initials of cult leader Keith Raniere. She wasn't just complicit, she was instrumental. In 2021, she pled guilty to racketeering and racketeering conspiracy. She was sentenced to 3 years in prison and released early in 2023. Allison Mack's downfall is a brutal reminder that manipulation doesn't always come from strangers in the shadows. Sometimes it's delivered by familiar faces, those we admire, trust, and let into our lives without question. Amy Locane. One drunken night, one life lost, and a future that can never be undone. Amy Locane once carried the glow of a rising star. Her roles in Crybaby and Melrose Place made her a familiar face in early 90s Hollywood. She had the smile, the energy, the screen presence. Her future seemed promising, secure. But one night changed everything. On June 27, 2010, in Montgomery, New Jersey, Amy was behind the wheel, intoxicated. Driving above the speed limit, she crashed into another car. 60-year-old Helen Seaman was killed instantly. Amy's blood alcohol level was nearly 3 times the legal limit. She was convicted of vehicular homicide. Her sentence, originally 3 years, was later extended to 8. She must serve over 6 before parole becomes an option. Amy's story isn't one of malice, but of consequence. A single night, a single decision took a life and altered her own forever. She was once loved for the character she played. Now she's remembered for a tragedy no performance can undo. And in that space between who she was and who she became, we're left with a painful truth. Even the brightest futures can dim in a single irreversible moment. Skylar Deleon. When becoming someone else meant taking lives that weren't hers to take, Skylar Deleon had always felt trapped, in her body in obscurity, in a life that never quite began. After a brief appearance on Power Rangers, the fame she hoped for never came. But what she truly craved wasn't the spotlight, it was transformation. By 2004, Skylar was determined to undergo gender reassignment surgery but lacked the financial means. And in a decision both desperate and devastating, she chose a path fueled not by healing, but by harm. With her wife and accomplices, Skylar targeted Tom and Jackie Hawks, a retired couple selling their yacht. Posing as interested buyers, they gained the couple's trust, but once out at sea, that trust was betrayed. Tom and Jackie were forced to sign over ownership, bound and thrown overboard. Their bodies were never recovered. Skylar was sentenced to death for orchestrating the murders. In prison, she began hormone therapy and changed her name, but no new identity can erase the lives taken to get there. Skylar's story is not just one of violence, it's one of confusion. of mistaking liberation for entitlement, of believing that being your true self justifies any cost. But no journey toward authenticity should begin by erasing someone else's. Some truths set us free. Others, when built on the suffering of others, become prisons of their own. William Hayden. From American symbol to a legacy erased. William Hayden once embodied a certain American ideal: craftsmanship, independence, and grit. Born in 1965, he rose from humble beginnings to become a respected gunsmith. His shop, Red Jacket Firearms, drew attention from collectors and enthusiasts across the country. His public recognition exploded with Sons of Guns, a reality show on the Discovery Channel that brought him into homes nationwide. On screen, he was a mentor, a father figure, and a no-nonsense expert, a man who knew his tools and stood by his word. But in 2017, the image collapsed. Hayden was convicted in 2 separate trials of multiple severe sexual offenses, including acts involving minors. The verdicts shocked fans and dismantled a carefully built reputation. The man once held up as an American icon now faced a reality far from what he projected. He was sentenced to 3 life terms without the possibility of parole. He remains incarcerated at Louisiana State Penitentiary. William Hayden's story is a warning. What we see on screen can be a mask, and when that mask falls, we're forced to confront the uncomfortable truth that some legacies are built not on values but on secrets too dark to hide forever. Kaalan Walker. From rising star to a life behind bars. At just 22, Kaalan Walker, known professionally as KR, seemed destined for greatness. He was a triple threat: actor, dancer, and musician. In 2018, he starred in Kings alongside Halle Berry and Daniel Craig, marking a breakout moment. Young, charismatic, and creatively gifted, he looked like someone the industry would embrace, but the rise ended abruptly and devastatingly. That same year, Walker was arrested and charged in connection with multiple sexual assaults. The victims were aspiring models, contacted through social media with promises of career advancement, photo shoots, and access to Hollywood. But those promises masked something calculated and violent. Though some charges were dropped, he was convicted on several serious counts, including forcible rape and assault involving intoxicated victims. In 2022, he was sentenced to 50 years to life in prison. Kaalan Walker's fall wasn't just a loss of potential, it was a reminder of what happens when power is used without accountability. Talent means nothing if it's used to harm, and charm without empathy becomes manipulation. He could have built a legacy on his gifts. Instead, he'll be remembered for the lives he broke, starting with his own. Shannon Richardson. When unhealed pain turns into an irreversible choice. Shannon Richardson was never a star, but she carried the dream. Born in 1977, she took small roles in The Vampire Diaries, Franklin and Bash, and The Walking Dead. To others, they were cameos. To her, they were building blocks, a dream she still held onto in her late 30s. But off-screen, things were unraveling. A broken marriage, emotional turmoil, and years of silent resentment began to build. In 2013, it all exploded. Shannon was arrested for mailing letters laced with ricin to President Barack Obama and New York Mayor Michael Bloomberg. Authorities revealed it was a calculated attempt to frame her estranged husband during a bitter divorce and custody battle. In July 2014, she was sentenced to 18 years in federal prison. The verdict marked more than just legal closure. It buried the last remnants of a life once filled with fragile hope. Shannon's fall wasn't from fame, it was from self. Her story is a reminder that when pain is left untreated, it doesn't just sit quietly, it waits. And if fed by anger, it can lead us far beyond what we ever imagined, into choices that can't be undone. Toby Willis, from the perfect father to a fall no one saw coming. Toby Willis once stood as a proud patriarch of the Willis clan, a 14-member family band admired for their musical gifts, faith, and unity. Together with his wife and 12 children, he built an image of an all-American family that harmonized both on stage and at home. Their talent led them to America's Got Talent and their own TV show on TLC. They were, to many, a living portrait of purity and purpose. But in 2016, everything changed. Toby was arrested and later charged with an act of sexual misconduct involving a minor, someone closely connected to him. The investigation revealed that this was not a recent lapse, but something that had haunted his past. Once the charges were confirmed, he received a multi-decade prison sentence. What shocked the public was not just the nature of the crime, but how profoundly it clashed with the image the family had cultivated. The show was canceled, the music stopped, his wife filed for divorce, and the children, once praised for their unity, were left to navigate a silence they never asked for. Toby's story is a painful reminder. Sometimes the brightest smiles conceal the deepest fractures, and when betrayal comes from within the home, justice is not just served in court, it leaves scars across every life that once trusted too deeply. Drew Drexel, when a real-life hero falters behind the curtain of fame. For years, Drew Drexel stood as one of American Ninja Warrior's most beloved champions. He wasn't just strong, he was relatable. A man of modest beginnings who took on impossible obstacles and made them look conquerable. To many, Drew embodied what it meant to turn discipline into greatness. But in 2020, that story took a sharp and sobering turn. Drew was arrested after being implicated in a serious legal case involving a teenage fan. According to authorities, the encounter began at a sporting event and was followed by private communication. Eventually, the girl, just 15 at the time, was invited to his gym, where behavior described in the investigation crossed deeply personal and legal boundaries. Drew was 26. NBC responded swiftly, removing him from Season 12 of American Ninja Warrior. The fan base, once inspired, now found itself searching for answers. A figure once trusted now stood at the center of headlines no one expected. Drew remains in custody at a federal detention center in Philadelphia as legal proceedings continue. His story is no longer just about physical strength. It's a reminder that real character isn't tested on a climbing wall. It's tested in quiet moments when no cameras are rolling. And when those moments are misused, the fall is far greater than any obstacle ever built. Each of these names once stood for talent, success, and influence. But behind the spotlight were choices, wounds, and truths no one wanted to face. Fame can lift us, but it can also conceal the parts of ourselves we're most afraid to confront. And when the truth finally breaks through, it doesn't just end a career, it reveals everything hidden beneath the surface. Thank you for watching. See you in the next story, where we don't just revisit the past, we reflect on what it means.